Okay.
Blow this thing. Get everybody in the stuff together. Okay, 3, 2, 1, let's jam.
Right, so this is it. It's time. It's that time again. It's that time of the week. We're doing the Facebook Live side by side. And my guest this week, let's turn this off. My guest this week is from the Andy's Man Club. And we're going to be talking a little bit about, he's actually here. Yes, I'm going to add him to it. It's Greg. And this is going to be a little bit more on the serious side as opposed to, you know, a little bit of the fun, light-hearted, and in-depth look at some of the people's professions. This is going to be a bit more serious. And you know what? We're going to do our little best to treat this topic with a lot of respect. It's going to be in regards to more of the men's health, especially the mental health side of things. This has generated a little bit of interest in, you know, so whether you're watching this now, live, or if you're going to be watching this on the replay. Watching this. There he is. Would you like to turn the camera the other way?
Yeah.
Perfect. So at any time, people, if you feel like just adding a comment or asking a question, feel free. You know, we're here to talk about this today. How are we going to address it? Well, let's go into this first. Men's mental health is the biggest topic out there that's not spoken about enough, to my liking. How do I mean? Well, men's suicide rates are 3 times more higher than women. The biggest group is between 45 years old to 49 years old in terms of men who commit suicide. And the fastest growing rate, and this has come from the Samaritans, the fastest growing rate of suicide is actually from the ages of 23 to 27. And again, that group is men. So, you know, topics like this are very, very sensitive and we need to address it. Andy's Man's Club is a talking group. It's a talking place for a group of men to come together and almost be like a press release. And I'm very, very happy and honored to actually have Greg Munro. And Greg has always posted links to the group, to Andy's Man's Club, to this group. So, Greg, I hope you can hear me okay. Can you hear me?
Yeah, the earphones weren't working, but I'm okay.
Yeah, it looks a little bit murky, but hey, it's one of those things, you know. So, much more about, you know, first of all, introduce yourself, Greg. You know, tell us where you're from.
So I'm Greg. I'm from Ceres in Fife, which is kind of close to St Andrews, between Dundee and St Andrews in Fife.
Okay. Okay.
Is that all you want just now?
Well, yeah, it's not going to be like a dating post here. So, right. So, Greg. Okay. So, what made you get? Tell us more about Andy's Man's Club. What actually made it come about?
So it was Andy Roberts was a loving son and a father, a nephew, a cousin, a friend who took his own life when he was 23. And it was then his brother-in-law, Luke Gambler, who set up Andy's Man Club, and this was in Halifax in West Yorkshire in 2016. It started out just talking, just a group of guys talking, and it turned out they ended up talking about the same thing every week. And so over the years, it's evolved, and now there's 5 questions that get asked, 3 set questions, and another 2 that change every week. In 2017, it came to Scotland through Perth Prison. 2 prison wardens went away down, both without telling the other that they were suffering from mental health, and both brought it here and have pushed it since. So there's now, I think, 6 clubs in Scotland. There's 26 clubs all over the UK.
Yeah.
Mainly in the north of England, but all over the UK.
Yeah. Yeah, there's one in Plymouth, one in Exeter. There's quite a few. I was looking at the map. It's quite spread out. Not one in London just yet, but maybe that will happen in the near future. You know, and when we were talking about this, we were talking a little bit about how is it as a talking point? Do you get more people together and help people to just release whatever they're feeling? You know, we've lived by a sort of code of, you know, you got to be quiet, reserved, bottle up your feelings. You got to be tough. You got to push your way through it. If you know, talk about your feelings, you're not deemed anything more than a weakling. You know, that kind of thing. So how did you, you know, as a team leader, help out with a group of guys that are going through this kind of stuff?
The guys, once they come along, they've maybe already made the decision to come in. They maybe hardest step is through the front door for the first meeting. But you know, once you're on your way towards that meeting, you know, you've already made a bit of a decision. What I've been doing is anyone I've ever seen in need recently on a few different Facebook pages I'm on, or anything online, is just check out our information. So we've got, if you use info@andysmanclub.co.uk, that takes you to the head office, and what they'll do is take you along to our newbies meeting. And that'll be, it's pretty big. There's maybe 30 guys on there, but it's pretty powerful as well. And after this meeting, you're then directed to your closest club. The only thing I chuck in here is they're asking you to be within 45 minutes drive of a club. There's a map kicking about, which covers most of Britain, maybe very north of Scotland. And you know, England doesn't have one. There's one. There's some in the south, but you know, mainly the north of England and Scotland. There's just now. But we've got 26k wide, and we had, hold on, I'll just find the number. 280 came in on Monday just past it online. Roughly a third of what it'd usually be at physical meetings. We've had over a third physical meetings before, but through technical problems, through some of the guys just don't like the format, through not being able to have privacy enough in your home. One of the guys is a 18-year-old lad who'd asked me how to get in, and I've tried various ways, and I've never heard back from him yet. He's got parents, he's got siblings, everyone jumps into his room, you know, so there's various issues around now, but it's generally talked of at Andy's Man Club that we do the best we can. You know, this is as good as we can get just now.
So tell me more about the actual meetings when they take place, because you said there's 3 or 5 questions that you have for the meeting. Does it start off with questions, or does it start with a drink, like, you know, coffee, tea, that kind of thing? Walk me through a meeting.
At the physical meetings, there's always someone outside and always someone inside. And so anyone passing by who might be in two minds is going to be grabbed by a big lad with a Andy's Man Club hoodie and physically pulled through the door if they need to be. There's tea and coffee, and the seats are in a circle, and we use a ball. There's an Andy's Man Club branded ball that's sitting on one of the seats. When we're ready to go, the facilitators will start off with a positive reason for joining and an introduction. That then goes passed round with the ball, and then move on to question 1 proper, which is, how's your week been? Which can be one of those questions. It can be great. It can be. I've been having you know, grey weeks. Not terribly. Just nothing happening. I've been furloughed for the last while, so just not much to talk about. The ball passes round. Question 2 says, tell us one positive from your week. If guys are struggling, there's maybe not a positive, and I think we know now that the guys are then pushed towards coming here. Coming to the Andy's Man Club meeting becomes that one positive. Question 3 says, is there anything you need to get off your chest? And this can be, it was how COVID's been handled. We keep away from religion and medicine and politics as a rule. But you know, if they're part of an important share, then, you know, as long as someone isn't beating a drum or you know, trying to convince anyone else of anything that's going on. So then to question 3, we go then for a cup of tea, which can be a really important part, because you then get to maybe share coping mechanisms, talk about who's maybe struggled, and just make friends. Really, there's a lot of friendship goes on. the problem with the online stuff is that we've just been skipping past that break, and there's obviously no cups of tea, and you know, there's a few changes when we're online.
Yeah.
And then questions 4 and 5 are kind of happier questions. Question 5 on Monday just past there was, what's your favourite bad joke? Now, usually when we're going around the meeting, everyone stays on mute until it's their turn to speak. On Monday there, I'd asked everyone to unmute just so we could get the laughter and the groans generally from the bad jokes that happened.
Yeah.
And so the happier questions being the last two, you leave in a happier place hopefully when you come. And you know what the guys then say, you know, what's the highlight of your week? You know, Monday nights has become my favourite day. I'm a football fan and a wrestling fan, and you know, Saturdays were important days for me, and I'd say now Monday's the favourite day of my week because of Andy's Man Club meetings.
That sounds, you know, you've given a lot of how can I put this, a different light to what many people would consider. Oh, okay, how do I get help? You know, do I need to see a therapist all the time? These kinds of things. So you've taken a completely different approach. You've taken it more in a group area, and you've just let people do their talking through open questions, really. You know, how's your week been? Tell us, you know, those kinds of things. And what's happened is that it seems to have opened up more people in terms of their positivity. You know, it's helped them channel a more positive focus. You know, because they're not focusing on all the negatives. Who are the kinds of people that generally tend to come in to the club? Are they younger? Are they older?
We get all sorts. When I was in St Andrews, we didn't have very many meetings. We might have only had 4 meetings or so before lockdown, and so we struggled for a long time for any online members at all. But post lockdown was at least 2. There's some older guys. There was a mix of any, really. I think there's a lot of students who could do what we do in St Andrews. So we're really going to push. When we open back up, we're going for a major push, trying to get around the university. I work at the university, and so we're really going to you know, get the word out there. It's all about promotion just now. Yeah. We really just need to get the word out there. We're happening. And so however we're going to do that, we just need to really be shouting. My problem is I've sometimes seen guys who I know would benefit from coming along, and I'll send them a message saying what we do on a Monday, and then they don't come. And you can only go so far. You know, guys have got to want to come along, I suppose.
Well, yeah, there is that want to come along. You know, in certain elements like sales, it usually takes 5 attempts before someone decides to say yes. So you have to approach them 5 times. And the psychology is, again, it's all there wherever you go, because let's face it, the first time that you'll ask, there's going to be apprehension. But then the more you keep asking the same questions, sooner or later they will come in. You know, and again, when we're dealing with more serious subjects like what you're talking about, which, you know, it can relate to anything, and it can push a person to the next point, which is, you know, it can be their own suicide type thing or self-harm. Then it takes a different type of momentum to bring that person along. You may have to be a lot more persistent, which is what the club has consistently done. One of the videos that I saw online about it, you know, from the website, from the Andy Man Club website, actually detailed that, you know, it wasn't just one that I went along there. It was consistently being invited. So it made the person feel that, you know what, they wanted, even though they didn't feel that they were wanted. So they came along to the group, you know, and when they came along to the group, they found a bit more of a community and fraternity. You know, it wasn't high pressures, and it wasn't anything like, oh, I'm an alcoholic, I'm an alcoholic, I'm an alcoholic. Nothing like that. You know, it was a lot more warm-hearted and welcoming. Will I be right in saying?
Yeah. There's a lot of humour that goes on. You know, there's guys meeting together, so there's a lot of getting each other going, and but then on top of that, there's also support. Everyone knows why we're there, and you know, it's the guys you'd least expect to be supporters sometimes can be the guys who really come out. we're non-counselling, so none of us are trained, so we're not coming out with anything too technical.
Yeah.
But all we might come out with is a little help, how we might have dealt with a similar situation in the past that we might have found ourselves in, or just good share. That's tough. That might be enough.
Yeah, people, if you guys are watching this at this moment in time and you feel like asking a question, feel free. Ask it. Greg is here to help. Talk about the organization, talk about any of the experiences. If it's not about you, but someone that you feel very close to that may benefit from someone like Greg's services, feel free. Just put something in there. If you're also enjoying the content that's being listened to at the moment, give us a like. Let us know that you're there. We like seeing our viewers. We like seeing our people who are watching this, and hopefully we can get more people in. So please feel free. Just put something in there. Something I want to approach, which is in terms of the actual Andy Mann's Club. That is a charity, yeah?
Yeah, we are a charity, yeah. So there's merchandise out there is one of the ways you can help through totalactive.co.uk. I've got, let's make that out. I've got a running vest. We did that. It's okay to talk is our catchphrase, and it was then okay to run, which was our running club. The guy who runs it's a ex-rugby pro, and said when you guys are all in lockdown, you're going to need something to keep you going. And they said a month or so before they started training, they'd go for 300k, and they'd do that over a month. Which it seemed a lot going to me. That seemed quite hard, and so the guys said, we're not all rugby pros, so we did it over 2 months. And I'd never run before. Since I was at school or so, I'd never run, and so I managed to get the 3/4 of the time in, and then I chucked up on the facilitators page that it's a shame I'm so close. And all the guys then rallied around me and says, look, what you need to do is work out how much further you've got to go, split into the days you can manage, make sure you get days off, and finish the time. And so the vest and wearing's pretty well earned, but there's other stuff as well. I've got a Andy's Man Club face mask that are going just now for the COVID. Quite good to on with one hand. Don't mask your feelings. There's t-shirts of various different bits is one way you can help, and just getting the word out there really is most important. I did my birthday Facebook celebration for Andy's Man Club just to kick the name about. What we really need to be out there is someone to see the name or someone else to see the name and then to give it to their loved one who needs it. My brother and my dad and whoever might be able to do that. That's where I'm going to get along. Right now it's info@andysmanclub.co.uk. It'll take you to the services. When we're opened up again, you can just show up to the meetings. There's no problem there. You can just go through the door. But right now there's just a little bit more involved in getting involved in the clubs.
So what made you get involved as a volunteer within Andy's Man's Club?
I was, for a couple of years now, I've been trying to look at how we could get into mental health. I've been willing and able and not quite sure what my route was going to be. I did Movember for a couple of years. It was a main charity. We grow a moustache for the whole of November, but my wife hated it. And so I was told I wasn't going to do that anymore. And then just the end of last year, there was then two friends. One guy I worked with and an old friend from Cooper and Fife, just 15 minutes or so along the road. And I'm not sure what the situation was. There was one was a suicide, and another was simply a death from a lonely place, if not fully suicide. But it's just really resolved to be looking at doing something more. And I chucked out at that point to Andy's Man Club I want notes here just to keep myself right, to Calm and to Mind as well, which are other men's health charities, and just said, what I've told you, I'm willing, able, I've got time on my hands, how can I serve you? And these guys gave me back about promoting online, about getting their name out there. But it was Andy's Man Club who really came over and says, look, we've got a club just opening in St Andrews. If you'd like to come along, come to the meeting, see if it's for you. And pretty quickly, the two guys who run it, pretty much everyone in the club is needed their services. I went along. I've always said it was 95% there to facilitate, and maybe only 5% promoting these. But I get a lot out of the meetings. And the two there were the two guys from Perth Prison who started up in Scotland. They started up in St Andrews as well.
Yeah.
And after week one, they managed to grab me over a coffee and say, look, we see you're here to help. More than you are to be helped, I suppose. And invite me to come along half an hour early the next week to set up, to open the doors, to stand on the door, to do all those things that we did at physical meetings. It seems a long time ago now. Now I use Google Meet these days for online clubs. Which it's not perfect, but it's the best we've got just now.
Yeah, you got Google Meet, you got Zoom, you got Messenger, you got various different platforms which are out there.
Yeah.
What's been the sort of most challenging kinds of, I don't know, kind of meetings that you've had? Has there been times where people have been quite silent or withdrawn internally? Or has it always been, look, everyone comes together and they do literally have a point, to make? Sometimes maybe the meetings may go a little bit, I wouldn't say stale, but I was going to say something else, like maybe the extreme of stale, everyone talking together, that kind of thing. It becomes a little bit loud and rowdy.
There's always a bit of everything. I started at Andrews meetings, and there was a guy who was along there. There was a Brazilian lad who had come to St Andrews Uni, and was St Andrews Uni has a lot of guys who work in the labs as well as study. And he was doing research and was working pretty much full time, as well as his studies, and his family weren't over here. Had pretty limited English, and seemed like he was really struggling. And we only saw him the once. So some guys will come along once, you don't see them again. And then you'll get guys who never miss a week.
Yeah.
I hope that guy comes back. It's hard to tell when anyone's ever going to be on. And then on the online clubs, it's the same again. When we went online, right away we use Facebook Messenger. So at the start, put up the question and give it 15 minutes, and you just use answers on Facebook Messenger, which it didn't really involve. No one really got involved. That's my son.
Yeah.
And so pretty quickly the guys were trying to work out what online forum was going to work best, and they tried a few of them out, and Google Meet they thought was the best one, which just works pretty much perfectly the whole time. And so for the first 2-3 weeks or so, I didn't have anyone at all at St Andrews, and I was then going over to help at the club at Dundee. Because it was online, there was no extra problem to join in. It's just a different code I had to use. And I was at Dundee for, 2 or 3 months or so, until eventually the guys at the head office said, we've got a newbie from St Andrews for you. If you can find someone to help you out, it would be better. Just the idea that they're not seeing me as a counsellor. It's not a one-to-one counselling, it should be a group meeting. And so I went back over to the guys at Dundee and said, is there anyone who fancies coming over helping? And the guy who'd had a pretty heavy share that week jumped straight in as quickly as he could. He was there and he says, I've been looking at getting into facilitating. This guy's wanting to set up his own club over Dunfermline way. This guy's from. That's in its infancy, is trying to set up a club there. And this guy's just done amazing stuff, and that's where I get from it. The help that I've given this guy, and he's blossomed. He's jumping on. I keep on apologising to him for stealing his story. It feels like his story, his improvement, but it's definitely part of mine as well. I feel a huge part of what this guy's doing, and over and over, it's you just see guys, improving and things getting better for them.
Well, that's good to know. Because I was going to ask you, what are the obviously, when someone comes to the group, I've done all kinds of networking in the past. So feel the same kind of way when it comes to something like this. You're going to be apprehensive. You're going to be nervous, not totally sure who the people are because you don't know anyone there in reality. But something has called you along there. And it's usually a sense of, look, something's got to change. That person's going through, they realize that something's got to change and they need that help. This is something where it starts. This is a place where to start. During your time with any individual, that there's like a breakthrough moment for them, or is it like just basically a way at wherever is tying them down to reveal that, look, there's something good in the world just in general. People are going through very similar stuff, but having said that, it works like a community and everyone finds a solution to something.
It's happened in every way. I've seen guys who, over the course of a few months at Dundee, have slowly got there. Their shares are getting less and less heavy, and they find some humour. A guy who came along to St Andrews for his first time, and one of his friends had introduced him along, shared stuff that night that that guy didn't know about him. And he said there was you saw a whole different person after one night. Talking to him the other night on his second night, he then said, how much this had spun him around and how much it helped for him, So it changes people person to person, really.
Is there a cost to just finance as a charity?
No, there's no cost at all. All the meeting rooms are taken free of charge, and they've got to be consistent. Part of setting up this one in Dunfermline, it's in its infancy just now, is really looking at making sure it can be open every week. If a guy becomes dependent on the clubs and then suddenly the meeting's not there's a major problem. So one of the biggest parts of setting up the new club is making sure it comes along every week. The tea and coffee are free. We're thinking of handing out the semi-disposable coffee cups just to work out. Although that might just be back burner again. But being the north of England, it's all based in. All this stuff was ready to go. It was starting to look at coming out of lockdown, and I don't know where we're going to go now. But that's the future.
Yeah, I mean, lockdown has played a massive factor in many areas, but based upon watching the news, you guys in Scotland are a lot more ahead of the curve, so to speak. You really have had much more. I'm not trying to be political or anything, but what seems to be more sensible policies based around coronavirus. And hence why it seems as though there seems to be less and less of coronavirus in Scotland than there is in England. So I have more high hopes that things are going to work out absolutely fine in Scotland. In just in particular, as opposed to England.
Yeah. It worked the other way. Just because we were behind, the office of kind of Manchester way, and they were looking at being England coming out of lockdown before us, and the Andy's Man Club, one of the mottos is one in all in, which is a rugby term, and it says that every club moves forward at once, everything moves forward at once, but it's an idea. If England was going to come out of lockdown before anywhere else, then they were going to open up before anyone else. But I don't know what's going to happen now. I suppose no one does. The clubs have all been discussed as what kind of situation they're in for opening up, and things are at a certain stage as to how to go. All the facilitators have been asked how happy they'd be at a club. Part of the thing is pass a ball, which is pretty symbolic, is this ball being passed, and you have to wipe the ball every time you pass it around now. There's all sorts of things to bring in.
Well, it sounds like there's more innovation taking place to keep more people in, within the meetings, feeling a part of the meetings. So that sounds kind of cool. Okay, now there has been a question asked about, Man's Andy's club, from one person, which was, how can we set up one down in the south? Because there are, like, Plymouth, Exeter are the closest ones I can find in the south. Most of them, like what you said, are northeast England, as well as parts of Scotland. Scotland, as you said, has 6 clubs, but the rest of them are, like, for example, Sunderland or, Hull, those kind of areas. And, people would like to have what's going on in those areas down in the south a bit more accessible. So how does one go about setting one of these clubs up?
So the website is at andysmanclub.co.uk. All you need to do is get in touch there. If you come over and then say you've got a venue, as I said there, a huge part of what we need to do is make sure it's going to be open the whole time. So every venue needs to be free for indefinite amount of time onwards, and big enough for everyone to come into.
Have you
the problem is we don't quite know what size we need just now. St Andrews started out. That was another way that Andy's Man Club happens. Is when other clubs need support, the other ones then join over. St Andrews' first club had 6 guys come over from Dunfermline to support us. And the busiest night was its first night, with these guys coming to make sure we had a good opening number. It was when the guys from Dundee come over. Because you can travel, you can go to any club you want, I suppose. So the only thing we really need is for that club to be sustainable. And anybody thought a club should be in their area, all they need to do is get in touch online, and there's a process line to go through. And it probably wouldn't be now when we're in lockdown, but after lockdown, we're looking at growing. The numbers pre-lockdown we're coming on to 1,000 guys at clubs, and the biggest number we've had during lockdown is 320. And every club just about reports being at a third of their numbers. That's roughly where everyone's at, is a third of their numbers through whatever reasons stop people managing to be online.
Yeah, we've seen the same thing with a lot of networking groups which are out there that used to meet up in venues and being online. A lot of the meetups have dropped in terms of their numbers. Have you ever found that people are brought in to the men's club?
As speakers?
Okay.
As guest speakers, do you mean?
Well, not as speakers, but more like, look, I think you actually need to go to something like this, that kind of thing, and be referred either through doctors, family members, that kind of thing.
Well, my wife works in for the National Health, and there's been doctors asked her for our flyers, just for maybe the guys who don't quite need to be sent to mental health through the NHS, but just might be exactly what you need. There's nothing as a full technical link just now, but we're hoping in the future that could almost be how we work. There's obviously so much NHS a bigger problem. I think it can be a bigger problem yet when lockdown finishes, and there's all sorts of issues in the background. I think what's been going on just now has been like a sticking plaster, financially and of the mental health of the whole of the world. Really, there's big things to happen.
Mental health has really only been identified properly in the last 10 years, essentially. At that, men's health has been, like what we said in terms of stigma, which is attached to men's health. You should have a stiff upper lip. You should be, strong. What do you mean? You're feeling depressed? Depression is just a state of mind. Come on, you can drag yourself out of it. Smile a little bit. Those kinds of things. There's been a lot more sensitivity towards the subject, and more people becoming aware, especially, let's face it, PTSD, those kinds of stuff, they all have happened, and they've all been diagnosed and recognized as proper illnesses. Men do suffer. Like what you said, it's okay to talk, and sometimes that's all that's needed is just a place where people can let things out.
Yeah, I don't think it's ever changed. I don't think, we see ourselves as so much more civilized now. But, I don't think things have changed so much in all these years. And you know, back then when it was you know, keep calm and carry on and stiff upper lip and all this thing, guys still thought the same way. Guys still had the same problems back then. It's just more recognised now, and you know, I don't think that's a bad thing at all. You know,
No.
it's my granddad would never probably went to work a club like this, but you know, maybe he needed it. You know, it's not to say he didn't need it that he wouldn't have went. Uh, I just don't think it's only recognition we've got now. It's not new problems. It's recognition of old problems, and we're now dealing with them in a different way.
Have
I don't
you
think we've
found
changed so much at
that?
all.
Have you ever found out with some of the visitors there that go in, they're like, "Oh, I don't need this," you know, but they clearly do, and you know, maybe you've had to coax them into saying, "Look, you know, just try it out," you know, and maybe they've found some benefit. Well, has that, you know, has it been, "Look, it's your choice. You do what you need to do."
It's hard to know how hard to push. There's a lad, St Andrews, who really had a pretty major breakthrough just a week before we had our went into lockdown,
Mm.
and he tried one of the online classes, said it wasn't the way for him, and he's never been back. He'd been in touch with me once or twice about coming back, and I've chased him once or twice, but it's hard to know how hard to you know, to push someone when you're pretty sure you can help them, but you know, they're not willing to do anything. Maybe been easier since we've all been online, although everyone signs up to the Facebook page you know, if they want to, the live meetings.
Mm.
With it all being online, everyone's right there in front of us now, so it's maybe easier to get in touch with people when you're online and chase them along. But you can only chase so far.
Yeah.
I do have, you know, there's a couple of times I'm pretty sure I'd like to come along to the meeting. They maybe like the stuff I put online. They interact with Randy's Man Club stuff, and then you know, haven't come along. But you know, you just need to find it in your own time, you know.
Mm. Have you ever had you know, again, one of the industries that we both are a part of is the professional wrestling industry, the British professional wrestling industry. And again, there's a lot of challenges there in terms of people's mental health. Is widely discussed, widely talked about, but sometimes not recognized because solution. You know, you can talk about the problem, but if you're not given any solutions, then you know, great, we've addressed the problem here. We know what the problem is. How do we deal with it? You know, and I think I met you in Dundee for one of the events up there when I went up there with Casey Spinelli just to do one of the shows. And basically, I think you had some of the Andy's Men's Club members there. So it seems like you guys also organize nights out as well.
Yeah, those the guys in Dundee had a couple of bowling nights. I've really only been involved for a month or so before lockdown. I'm yet to meet all the guys really in Dundee. One of the guys I knew personally before, and when he came on to chat, I recognised the picture. But generally, I've met a lot of these guys, or you know, met them. I've chatted extensively here, and you know, told these guys things that I might not tell my family, and you know, they've done the same. So, on one way, there's a deep connection. In other ways, I've never met a lot of these guys face to face. But yeah, there's all sorts that goes on.
Yeah.
There's a bus that goes down between all the Andy's Man clubs to meet up. The guys who run it do a tour around Britain and meet all the classes of a Monday night. There's a trip to Alton Towers is meant to be on that COVID dealt with as well.
Yeah.
I must have only been involved for 2 or 3 weeks at that point. And Alex, who's one of the chief facilitators in Scotland, told me to you know, get that weekend free. We're going to do a Andy's Man Club session at Alton Towers, and then almost had the place to ourselves on that Sunday. So I said to him, yeah, it sounds good. What's the cost? I know, we're covering the cost, he says. So Andy's Man Club covered the cost for all the facilitators in Britain to go to Alton Towers. So there's all sorts going on. Yeah, it's a real social thing.
You know what, and this is kind of cool as well because again, you know, it provides a lifeline to many people who need it. You know, that's the reality. There's a lot of people who need this, and they just don't know how to access it. You know, but you've been quite open about it. You know where people can access it, and if they can't come down to the club, they can at least, at this moment, while lockdown is still happening in certain areas, they can access the services through maybe Meet, Google Meet or Zoom meetings and that kind of stuff. So have an interaction with people. Again, I think what you guys are doing is an absolutely amazing job. There's no denying it. It's very unique. There's nothing else out there at this moment in time that I feel is giving men, especially, the sort of nudge that's needed to help them, especially during these times. We've seen, especially with lockdown, where kids are off from school, more parents are going through depression because they're having to teach their kids, so the law that what teachers used to go through, now parents are finally starting to experience what teachers go through. And I think sooner or later that's going to become a bit more of a, how can I put this, a bit more of a drain on the NHS, because more services are going to be needed. So having something like, Andy's Man's Club is going to be a great benefit to many people. Okay, so if people want to get in contact or come to the meeting, they can contact you direct. You're on our group. You're pretty much the representative of Andy's Man's Club. If you guys want to find out more about Andy's Man's Club, Greg, feel free. What was the email address again? Sorry, the website again?
So andysmanclub.co.uk is the website, but all you need to do is you send an email to info@andysmanclub.co.uk. Then you'll send it to the head office, and you'll then sent to a newbies meeting for the first week, and then to your own closest meeting the next one. The only thing you've got to do in these 45 minutes is that they do ask us to keep on putting that in, because it's not so good to have to turn someone away when they're obviously needing to come along. When things are physical again, you can be as far as you want to drive to a meeting, I suppose. But it's just, you've got to make one rule. You've got to make a line at some point, I suppose.
Yeah, and again, Greg every week posts the links to Andy's Man's Club. Feel free, click on the link. It's been an absolute pleasure to talk to you about the organization, how it works, what your role has been. And again, the very few people can do this kind of role. You need to be of a certain type of mentality, a certain type of strength. Anyone who's worked within the medical profession will understand that, especially when it comes to things like offloading, which is very, very difficult. You need to have someone who can understand what you're going through. So, for you guys to be doing this on a volunteer basis is completely, I'll take my hat off to you. Well, if I had a hat, So, that's basically brings us to the end of our interview. Is there anything that you would like to add?
No, I think I've covered it really there. What you're saying is right. If anyone on your page who sees anything I've done, if there's any more they need, then talk to me about it. Don't be afraid. I can give you more of my experiences. I'm happy to chat, and it's definitely open there. Like info@andysmanclub.co.uk is important bit there for you guys getting involved if you think anyone else might get it, and make sure you spread the word around.
Oh, I definitely.
That's what we're really trying to get.
And again, we've had a lot of people who've come on board to view this as much as they can, and of course had to drop out for various reasons. I thank every one of you guys who've come on and viewed this so far. No questions so far, because most of the questions have been sent to me, and hence why I've been asking you those kind of questions. All have been sent in private as well, so no names have been mentioned. If you're watching this live or watch this on replay, thank you so much, guys. I really appreciate this. Tomorrow, my Facebook Live will be back onto the mortgage market. It'll be on the house buying process, and we'll be looking at chains versus let to buy. So whether it's right for you to put your property on the market to sell versus letting out your current property, releasing the equity, and purchasing onwards. What's the pros here? What's the cons there? So let's find out. But that will be my Facebook Live tomorrow at 7 o'clock. Greg, thank you so much for being a part of this, man. Thank you for taking your time out for it.
Oh, thank you.
No. Everyone, have a great evening. Take care of yourselves. Catch up with you guys there. See you soon. Bye.